Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Steelers still trying to make a move at wide receiver, report. For almost a month now, Pittsburgh Steelers fans have been waiting to see who would be the team's next WR2. The team left themselves a major need at the position when they traded Deontay Johnson to the Panthers on March 12. So far, they have yet to find a replacement, but it seems we still might not wait until draft day to get that player. During the April 9th episode of the In the Huddle podcast, Odyssey's Jason La Canfora revealed that the Steelers are really trying to make something happen at wide receiver. For me, there's a piece of information we don't have yet, which is, do they trade for a wide receiver before the draft? It would not surprise me if they did that tomorrow, if they did it the Wednesday before the draft. If they did it while they were on the clock, if they did it in the run-up to the draft that Thursday, I know that they're really trying to make something happen there. Things looked pretty good at wide receiver for the Steelers entering the offseason. George Pickens had established himself as a true WR1 by racking up 1,140 yards in 2023. Johnson was a strong option at WR2, having made a Pro Bowl appearance in 2021 after a 1,000-yard season of his own. All the team really needed was a new WR3 as Allen Robinson struggled in 2023, making only 34 catches for 280 yards, and ended up being released this offseason. Now that Johnson and Robinson aren't on the roster anymore, they have a big gap between Pickens and the rest of the depth chart. No other receiver on the roster recorded 250 yards last season. That certainly leaves the team looking to add a WR2 before the start of the season, and it might not even be a bad idea to get somebody at WR3. The only issue is that right now there don't seem to be many options to trade for. If the Steelers want to get something big done at receiver before the draft, it seems like there is really only one option for them. Brandon Ayuk is the biggest name that has come up as a trade possibility this offseason, and he is the most realistic option if the Steelers are looking to make a big move at the position. Ayuk is currently on the last year of his rookie contract and is expected to get a big payday on his second contract. Meanwhile, the 49ers have very little cap space to work with. In fact, they are currently expected to be $30 million over the cap in 2025 according to SpotTrack, and that's without Ayuk on their books at all. It also doesn't include the contracts for the rookies they are going to draft in 2024. There has even been a price for an Ayuk trade reported. According to 1010XL's Mia O'Brien, the 49ers wanted the Jaguars' first-round pick and Zay Jones for Ayuk. He would be a huge addition for the Steelers after he racked up 1,342 yards in 2023. There haven't really been any concrete reports of any other big names at the position that the Steelers could make a move for. Courtland Sutton is somebody who has come up regularly in trade rumors in the past, but it seems unlikely the Broncos would trade him after having already sent Jerry Jeudy to the Browns. If he did become available, Sutton could be a good fit for the Steelers after clearing 700 yards in 5 of 6 seasons. T. Higgins requested a trade after he was franchise tagged this offseason, but the chances of the Bengals trading him within the AFC North are slim. If they want to get their WR2 in the draft and are only looking to trade for a WR3, they could see what the Texans want for Robert Woods or John Mechie now that they have Stephon Diggs. Woods made 40 catches for 426 yards last season, but is probably the WR5 for the Texans now. Mechie was a second-round pick in 2022, but has only played 310 snaps in 2 years. He is also buried on the depth chart. Maybe the Steelers have a less obvious option they are looking into at wide receiver, but it doesn't look like there are a ton of options out there for them to find one before the draft anymore. Steelers pushing for WR trade. The Pittsburgh Steelers haven't given up on trading for a wide receiver just yet. According to NFL insider Jason La Canfora, the team is still searching for the right move, and it could come before the NFL draft. For me, there's a piece of information we don't have yet, which is do they trade for a wide receiver before the draft, La Canfora said on the In the Huddle podcast. It would not surprise me if they did that tomorrow, if they did it the Wednesday before the draft. If they did it while they were on the clock, if they did it in the run-up to the draft that Thursday, I know that they're really trying to make something happen there. The Steelers have done some, but not much, homework on the top wide receivers in the NFL draft. Despite meeting with many at the NFL Combine, the team has only brought in 6 names for pre-draft visits. The most notable was Adonai Mitchell of Texas. Pittsburgh was on the radar for a Brandon Ayuk trade with the San Francisco 49ers, but the move slowly died off. All Steelers suggested making a trade for one of the Houston Texans wideouts after the trade of Stephon Diggs. And maybe, the team has other plans in mind with names like T. Higgins on the block. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Jerry Dulac said a trade of significance could still be on the table for the Steelers. It appears they may still be trying to make a final splash. Browns' Deshaun Watson gets honest on Steelers' very limited defense. It may have been an innocent answer, but Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson appeared to give the Pittsburgh Steelers valuable information on the latest episode of his podcast. Some fans may even call the information bulletin board material. On the April 5 episode of QB Unplugged, Watson explained how the Browns have utilized an extra offensive lineman in the past to keep the Steelers in their base defense. Watson said the Browns used this strategy at the beginning of the fourth quarter in Week 2 to complete an 18-yard pass on third down. Watson completed another pass for 23 yards against the Steelers' base defense 2 plays later. The biggest thing is get the defense in what we want to get the defense in, and that's a base defense, especially a team like Pittsburgh, Watson revealed. When they're in base defense, they don't play too many coverages. It's very limited on what they're doing. They kind of vary scheme to how they play. So once we had this situation, alright cool, we got them exactly how we want it, and then you just run the play and react. The Browns didn't score on the drive Watson reference, but they gained 54 yards before tight end David Njoku lost a fumble. Of those 54 yards, 41 of them came on passing plays against Pittsburgh's base defense. Fans and opposing players accused the Pittsburgh offense under Matt Canada of being too simply time and again. But that's generally not the reputation of the team's defense. At least it wasn't for a long time under former defensive coordinators Dick LeBeau and Keith Butler. Things have changed a little with new defensive coordinator Terrell Austin. At various times during 2023, Austin had little choice but to be simplistic with his defensive sets. That's because the Steelers were dealing with multiple injuries at inside linebacker and safety. This was particularly a problem in December when Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cole Holcomb, Quan Alexander, Keanu Neal and Damontae Kazee were all out of the lineup. But those players were all in the lineup during the Week 2 matchup Watson reference. If the Steelers take anything away from Watson's honesty on April 5, opposing offenses, especially Cleveland, want to throw the ball against the Pittsburgh base defense. Watson can brag about a few successful plays he's had against the Steelers' base defense. But for the most part, the Steelers' defense has had Watson's number. The Browns' quarterback has completed just 62.5% of his passes with 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 3 starts against Pittsburgh. He's also fumbled 3 times and taken 18 sacks. Watson's team lost all 3 games. One of those defeats came with the Houston Texans during the 2020 season. Granted, Watson has averaged 7.6 yards per pass and 5.5 yards per rush against Pittsburgh. But his negative plays, an average of 6 sacks and 2 turnovers per game, have contributed to Steelers' victories. Only the Baltimore Ravens have averaged more interceptions and sacks against Watson in his career. But, Watson is 2-0 versus the Ravens. The Steelers could probably use a little more intricacy in their base defense. But their overall game plan versus the Browns quarterback has worked very well. And you, fan, What do you think of the situation of Deshaun Watson? Leave your opinion in the comments.